Am I led to believe then that you're very much satisfied with Caleb Williams' progress through 4 games, and there's nothing to worry seems like an overstatement. Nothing to be concerned about?
No, I think it's just one opportunity that he showed that he's starting to figure it out. And this is just the beginning of that kind of stuff, right? Even though, here's the thing, all these games are almost like an entire lifetime in themselves, and then they get broken into like a quarter or a third of the season and then the entire season. And so you got to analyze them individually, in my opinion, and collectively. And you want to see positive steps as you go. You want to eliminate some of the mistakes that you've been making early on and get those out while continuing to grow is the ideal, growth spurt and growth pattern that you want to show. Well, I thought they did a great job of understanding their formula to win this week, or this past week rather, against the Rams. It wasn't going to be the same game plan as Houston and Indy, where they're chucking the ball around the yard and he ends up with, the Indy game, 360-plus yards and 50 attempts. That doesn't look like their formula to win. It had to be that game because they were chasing points, whatever. They'll get into more situations like that down the road, but in a game where you're more or less in control or it's in the balance and it's a one-score game, Caleb operated efficiently. And that should be for him a blueprint on how to win a game like that, a back-and-forth one-score game, potentially low-scoring game. Defense is going to get involved. Your punter's going to help you out. Cairo Santos is going to help you out. So let's handle this one the right way. It might only be 23 attempts, and that's okay. So I think he jumped over that hurdle. And then this next week, okay, what's the new formula to win? They're all similar. They all involve the same principles of taking care of the football, running the ball well, special teams, defense, everything. But how does this game start to take shape? And what is our plan, right? And I think they nailed last week. They really did a good job.
Mark, we just heard Caleb talk. It's his Wednesday appearance with the media, and he was discussing that process, just being able to eliminate the mistakes early, lower the turnover amount. And we just had a discussion talking about how there's a balance between young quarterbacks being afraid to throw an interception and that taking away a lot of what they do well.
No doubt.
Yeah,
no doubt.
This is why we wanted to ask you. There's a lot of what we talked about today that I think applies to exactly what you've been through as a quarterback in the league. And then also just the balance of being able to still take the shots that you want to, have that risk and know your skill set. Speak to how difficult it is, because I know you can, and then also what you're seeing out of him in the process.
Well, listen, it was difficult for me because, I thought I was a pretty good player, okay? I thought my arm can make up for a lot of things, and I'm competitive as all get out. I don't care if we're flipping a coin, playing thumb war, or, playing a football game. I want to win. That's just kind of the way I'm built and the way I'm wired. It's even harder exponentially, I'm sure, for Caleb because he's so much more talented than I was, right? This guy's got talent dripping out of his ears. He doesn't even know what to do with it. He doesn't even realize how talented he is yet. Because once he gets this game management stuff figured out, oh, mama, look out, right? So he has to fight that all the time because his arm is good enough. If his feet get sloppy, his arm can fix it. Now, if that becomes a pattern and you start drifting in the pocket and boom, now you start getting hit, well, what the heck? I got to get back to my fundamentals. You know what I mean? So he's developing that stuff. He's stretching and flexing and working out new muscles. And a lot of those muscles that you're working out in the NFL are just saying uncle, are just quitting on a play when the defense wins. And they're going to win. You have to understand these defensive coordinators, they're sick, dude. They're twisted in the head. All they want to do is stay up all night for 6 nights a week, don't see the daylight until they go out for practice. They don't see their family. All they're doing is dialing up blitzes and pressures and ways to ruin your Sunday in front of your family and embarrass your ass. That's all they're trying to do. So when you understand that, then, okay, how do we come up with a plan to handle this? How do we come up with a plan for, hey, man, this guy dialed up a good pressure there. I got to get rid of the ball. I got to fall down. I got to throw a ball in the stands and give somebody a souvenir just so Cairo Santos can get us 3 points and we stay in this ballgame. Those are the things he's trying to work out. And then from a coaching staff standpoint, like you don't want to take it all away from him and put him in this little phone booth where he can only turn around and hand the ball off and you get to throw it on third downs when we have to. You know what I mean? Because that feels like you're grounded. You know what I mean? No screen time this week. You're in trouble. You know? That kind of stuff is like, it's a little remedial. It's definitely embarrassing. And the team kind of feels it like, oh, he can't handle it yet. You know, he needs the training wheels. But if you do it in a more organic way, like the way they did last week, and when he sees the other guys handling some of the hard stuff for him and realizes he can be the distributor and just dump it down to Roschon Johnson and dump it down to DeAndre Swift when the backers are in their deep zone drops, oh my God, it's like a freeing feeling. When I got the chance to dump it down to LaDainian Tomlinson and he scampers for 25 yards on the first play of a 2-minute drive, I mean, are you kidding me? You don't have to throw it 25 yards to get 25 yards. So he's learning that. And it's really fun to watch because he is one special player. And once he gets it, I'm telling you, look out.
I first of all, your comments about defensive coordinators and the way I'm curious, how much does that have to do with how much time you spent with Rex Ryan?
Well, and all these defensive coordinators.
I was going to say Greg Williams is the guy I was
Rex
picturing.
Ryan, Greg Williams. Oh, dude, we were 3-0 out the gate my rookie year in 2009. Okay? We went down to New Orleans. I hadn't taken an ass whooping like that since my brothers used to beat me up as a kid. Like, it was rough. I mean, my head was spinning. And I played terrible. They blitzed us, over half the snaps. And we were just getting hit from all angles. I mean, it was a total assault, like it was just rough. So that one really woke me up to, whoa, this is a different league. These guys are good. They're going to guess right. Don't give them a cheap one when they guess right. When they guess right, let them have their win on that play, lose the battle to win the war kind of thing. And you concede what you have to. And so it becomes this game within the game, and it's all these mental gymnastics that you're not necessarily used to because at USC, sure, we had some tight ball games, but I didn't have to win a game in the fourth quarter necessarily. We had defenses that took the ball away, gave us short fields. I was out at halftime in a bunch of games, So until you start realizing that and going through that, it's really hard to operate when you've never done it. And so then you get the experience, you watch the tape, and hopefully you grow from it. But, these defensive guys, man, they're good.
And one thing that doesn't help the Bears has been this spate of pre-snap penalties. And I'm not sure what it says about the practice habits. I'm not sure what it says about ongoing issues with Caleb Williams learning to call an NFL cadence the right way. But it's the last thing that he needs. The last thing the offense needs is to just keep stepping on rakes out there. How do they get better at timing before the snap?
A lot of it's just time on task. A lot of it's discipline. A lot of it's self-control, impulse control, and really being locked in. And to lock into a game plan, to lock into your set of objectives, it's got to be dialed. It's got to be flushed out. It's got to be, once again, rehearsed so many times that like the military, right? Like there's always going to be something you don't expect, but you're pretty much trained for everything. Right? You just go into operational mode and there's no emotion and you just go. And that's kind of what you're trying to get to as an offense. But remember, these guys have so much time. Okay, I'll give you a good example. They have so much time on task on wide zone. Okay, outside zone. That's a Shane Waldron special. That's kind of where he, got his start with Sean McVay and all these guys and this West Coast tree and derivative of the West Coast offense, whatever. Well, the other day, we saw very little outside zone, and they're running downhill. They're running duo, which is double teams in front. They're running power behind Pryor until Jenkins got hurt, and then they had to move Pryor over. But they are completely changing. in this past game. And I think about all the reps that they have, the hundreds and hundreds of reps you have at outside zone, and now we're going to switch it up and run inside zone and downhill gap trap, man schemes. So those kind of things have to happen. They're like growing pains, for a young boy or girl going through playing athletics. You know what I mean? Like jumper's knee, like those things happen, and you got to work through them. And so the pre-snap stuff, I mean, it's just a decision. It's an attitude. It's your identity of just, hey, we don't do that. We don't beat ourselves. The good teams let the other teams beat them. They do not beat themselves. You start beating yourself, it's impossible to go anywhere. You take, one step forward, two steps back, and you're looking around like, oh, well, Caleb sucks, man. Well, 3rd and 15 sucks, okay? It's not necessarily the quarterback. So it's hard. It's hard when you hurt yourself like that.
Mac Brown always says you can't let one loss beat you twice, and I feel like that speaks to that.
100%.
Right, and we were talking earlier about the comparison of the success of C.J. Stroud last year and the discussion being, oh, well, they're catering a simpler offense to him in Houston, or what we're seeing right now with the recent success of Jaden Daniels in Washington, and then the very clear NFL concepts that Caleb Williams is going through. And I made the argument, I don't care what guys are doing right now as long as it gets them the wins. But I want to hear your opinion on this, because there is the long-term discussion, too, of how sustainable is it to simplify your offense. But I argued that, in Houston, they make that look pretty good, given what they did last year and what they're working on this year.
Of course. And I think they've all agreed on submitting to an identity and a process that was simplified during the week. And the result's going to take care of itself. The good teams can major in that. They can hyper-focus on what we're trying to do, who we are. We're playing a bunch of nameless, faceless opponents. Let's just do what we do, okay? And that's one mentality. And that's a lot of what I think D'Amico Ryans preached and some of the coaches down there subscribe to. And that's okay. However, your offense has to evolve over time. Think of an offense as not just like this dead playbook. It is a living, breathing animal, essentially. And it's got to grow, and it's got to change, and it's got to adapt. All these counters and different plays you see and the off-script stuff that the Chiefs have, that's 7+ years of reps, throwing in the off season, talking through coverages, understanding it, seeing it the same way with Kelsey and Mahomes and all these guys they've had, these core players. Hey, here's what we're going to call this. Everybody's overplaying this when we run a specific route. We're going to hit them with a counter. Kelsey, you're going to block this time. We're going to send the other tight end out on some of these routes and fake them out. Like, there has to be growth there. But for the first year with a brand new offense, brand new quarterback, it's okay to be simple and subscribe to that simplicity and understand what you're getting into. Sure, some of these teams, you'll be overmatched a little bit, but these plays are designed, when they're executed properly, to score or to at least gain, 4 to 10 yards, something like that. So, okay, if we can get 11 guys to do this play right, even though it's the first day install play, it should work. There's no reason it shouldn't work. So it sounds simple, but it's not easy, right? In theory, it's pretty basic. In practice, it's awfully complicated.
We're talking with Mark Sanchez, Fox Sports NFL analyst, and as you've been speaking, I think I've recognized a fundamental question here, based on what Caleb Williams talks about. And over the last couple weeks, he's used the word comfy. And I just think it's a cute way of talking about where they feel, like you say, they feel good about what they are doing regardless of opponent. And they made it clear that maybe they thought Shane Waldron was maybe being a little too opponent specific, getting a little too cute, and saying, look, let's figure out what we do and let's do it. And when I hear you talk about growing pains and time on task, that is essential. That's positive discomfort is how I would look at this. So on the one hand, the quarterback craves some comfort, but a developer of the quarterback is also craving growth from discomfort. How
100%.
do you balance that while trying to win?
Well, that's a great question. I think if I had, a pamphlet on that, I'd be a billionaire or the best coach of all time.
All right, well, let's go into business. I'll get it printed up. We can partner on this.
You got a printing press over there?
We'll find one.
So basically, here's how you have your own system, right? Whether it's a West Coast system, let's say, for example. Then you have the players you've acquired via trade, via draft, and develop, however you want to call it, right? You assemble this roster of 53 people that are going to go play for you. Well, that offense, as it's built, has to be catered to the talent and skills and ability of the players you've acquired. So there's going to be a little tweak there. Now, you do what your offense has in that playbook based on their skills. Then when you play specific teams, only certain parts of your playbook are going to be live that week, if that makes sense, right? Like if you're playing a team that doesn't run any cover two, well, all your cover two beaters are pretty much out the window. We're not going to really use that section of the playbook. Or because of a certain blitz they have, we can't protect like this. So all of our slide protections this week are out. We're going to go man protection with everything, okay? And we're going to need chips on the edge because they got two really good stud defensive ends, whatever it may be. Well, it works like that with coverage and scheme and then situation on the field. You have your own red zone plays, but defenses play specific red zone defenses. So you got to carve out certain things that work for those defenses. And then not only are you running your base plays, that is your identity, now you got to come up with these game plan week to week specific plays that have long tags, a lot of words. They take a while to spit out in the huddle, and that's why they're using the wristband, right? So this thing, when somebody says like his offense, Sean McVay's not running the exact same offense he was running last year. He doesn't have Puka. He doesn't have Cooper. Like, they can't do that with certain guys. So how do we piecemeal this thing together? How do we get by for a few weeks, throw some duct tape on it, and try and win some games? So those are the things you're battling constantly. And I'm sorry for the long-winded answer, but it's so complex, and the nuances of it are nearly endless. So that's kind of what they're going through, all while being a first-time coordinator installing his own system with a rookie quarterback. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, and a bunch of guys who haven't played for the guy. So it's really difficult. And to win a game, let alone get a few first downs and orchestrate a scoring drive, is like, that's incredible. That's an incredible feat in itself. So it's there's a lot going on, suffice to say.
No, that wasn't long-winded. We have the time. That was great. Like, we've had a lot of questions today specifically that I think your skill set and your background speak to. And we didn't even get to the possibility of, say, Devontae Adams going to the Jets. Like, that hasn't even come up yet. That's a team you know.
Yeah, I know there's some rumors floating around. It seemed like there's been a rift there for a little bit now. And after the business decision comment, it kind of came to a head, it sounds like. And, anybody that he has a relationship with, whether it's Derek Carr down in New Orleans or Aaron Rodgers in New York or one of these other teams that could really use a receiver like the Chargers or somebody, that's kind of where everything's going. My guess is if he went to the Chargers, they'd have to pay a premium just because they're in the division. I wouldn't ditch that guy in my own division and, potentially have him beat you later in the year. That's tough, and that's tough for GMs to swallow. So depending on what you get for him. But sure, that's a huge opportunity for a guy like that who wants to be on a competitive team with a chance to win it. He's 32 years old. So he's not real world old, but football receiver standards, he's getting up there, and he can still operate at a high level. So we'll see where that one shakes out, but it'll be fun to watch.
All right, Mark, who you got this week?
We are Dolphins at Patriots in Foxborough. I've actually never called a game in Foxborough. Played up there plenty of times. So we shall see. Should be fun.
You've done some yeoman's work in the league, Bears games included.
Yep, this is Yeah, after sitting through a Bears game, I would think they would give you something a little more aesthetically pleasing. But
Spicy.
Oh shoot, we'll make every game the Super Bowl,
There
baby.
you
It's always
go.
fun. It's the NFL game, man. Are you kidding me? I get to call it. There's, I don't know how many crews in the world. Like it
Right.
might be harder to be a play-by-play guy than it is to be a quarterback in the NFL because there's less of them.
Well, good luck. Thanks so much. This is really, really good. We appreciate you taking the time, and like to talk again